Steeler Nation, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the extravaganza known as the Steelers Hangover, as the Pittsburgh Steelers season ended yesterday with a combination of things, but most glaringly, a 28-10 loss to the arch rival Baltimore Ravens. Here to talk about it is myself, Bryan Anthony Davis, from Behind the Steel Curtain, and also from Behind the Steel Curtain, the living legend, Tony Defeo. Tony, how are you, my friend?
I am doing great, Brian. Happy Monday, Happy New Year. I hope you're doing well, and I
Uh,
hope I hope your hangover's not as bad as mine was yesterday.
oh gosh, it's one of those angry hangovers and angry at a lot of things. You wake up, you're just like, we talked about the airing of grievances last week, and now it's just, it's like one of those hangovers, the drunks where you're like, oh, where did my life go wrong? And that's kind
Right.
of how you feel after watching the Steelers play the Baltimore Ravens. And, for me, it's just one of those things that it's sour grapes is a lot of it, but it's also the fact that I live in Maryland, Tony. And imagine, now I know Steeler fans, we could be pains in the butt too, but we've been there and we know what it's like to be there. And I really think this has been my assessment with Ravens fans, because I really think that uh, they're not accustomed to being there as much as where we have over the years. And they're a very fickle fan base. And when I say that, it's because when things aren't going perfect for them, like they're going perfect right now, but they're kind of that fan base that when something goes wrong, they're going to write them off. They can have a beautiful season and lose, and they will hate this team. They will want Harbaugh gone.
Hmm.
They will want, I mean, Lamar Jackson had one bad game last year in the playoffs, and all the way up until September, they hated this guy. Then things went right. Actually, they started off with 1-2, and they hated this guy.
Hmm.
So that's just where the fan base is, and maybe it's sour grapes for me because I'm listening to a lot of it being here in Maryland, and Jeff and Dave do the same thing. They have to hear exactly what I hear as well too. Here's the thing. Still proud of this football team. And that's what we're going to be talking about. I want to address all of you in the live chat as well. Thank you, because you are our lifeblood. We really appreciate you. Remember to help the show. We ask you to subscribe, and we ask you to go ahead and hit for messages so that you can go ahead and know that this show is on. And we ask you to tell friends about it. Thank you so much for getting us to 5,000. That is very appreciative. So a lot of things to talk about here. So keep on trucking with us, even though the season is over. That sounds like the show's over, and it's not. But even though the season's over, we continue. Tony and I will be back next week with even more nonsense and more things to talk about. The hangover is going to last until this is going to be a 9-month hangover, but we're going to get through it, and that's going to be lots of fun, and it's fun to be doing it with you as well. So with that being said, remember, this is brought to you by BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. So that is where you get all your Pittsburgh Steelers information. And things happen today. Ralph, not Frank Webb, Jeff Hartman. Ralph Webb is back. He has been signed to a futures contract, along with guys like Christian Scotland Williamson. We see Tuzar Skipper having a new deal today, as well as Marcus Allen. So lots of things going on. So if you want to find out what's going on with the Steelers, keep on trucking. Keep on checking us out daily at BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Tony, let's go to you. What's your knee-jerk reaction of not just the game yesterday, but the season? So here you go.
Well, as far as the game, I kind of expected it to be that kind of game. I was hoping that the defense could hold down the fort a little bit better, and limit the Ravens' offense with RG3 at quarterback. But when you're only scoring 10 points a game, eventually it's going to catch up to you. And I think we saw that over the last 3 weeks. So my knee-jerk reaction to yesterday was that it was inevitable. As far as the season, I remember how I felt when I heard that Big Ben was going down or was going to be out for the year after week 2, and I thought 4, 5, 6 wins if they're lucky. So for them to be 8-5 after 13 games and have the inside track on a playoff spot, I thought that was a remarkable thing. It just doesn't feel that way right now because of how the last 3 weeks played out. But I think months from now, we're all going to be a little bit more appreciative of how 2019 was handled despite so much adversity.
And that's the truth. And so that's something that, I think an 8-8 season is special. But when you get to 8-5, you're thinking of what could happen and what happens if this team makes the playoffs, and you want more. And that's what we do as fans. We always want more, and we're going to continue to want more. And we're going to talk about wanting more for 2020 because we don't just give up our fan card. But I got to say, I am proud of this team from Duck Hodges all the way to Minkah Fitzpatrick, all the way to the aforementioned Tuzar Skipper. Everybody on this team, contributed to something that I'm going to remember as a pretty special year for what you said, Tony, how it started. And that's right. The title of the show. How will the history books remember the 2019 Pittsburgh Steelers? And that's what we're going to ask from you. Tony, you pretty much said it, but are you going to look back fondly on this team for how they came back from a 1-4 record? Or are you going to just say that, it's a team that they were just too snake bitten, and it's just a cautionary tale of not being ready when you lose a franchise player like Ben Roethlisberger?
Well, I don't know how you can ever be ready when you lose a guy like that. So, as I said, when they were winning 7 out of 8 games, it was so much fun to watch. Obviously winning makes it more fun, but just to see how much the defense grew, from where it was in 2017 and 2018, to see how dominant it became, and how dominant TJ Watt continues to be after 3 years, and the addition of Minkah. So I'm going to look back on it, and I'm going to think it's unprecedented almost what they did, because so many teams, and we talked about this last week, but when Joe Flacco went down in 2015, what happened to the Ravens? What happened to the 49ers last year when Garoppolo went down? When you lose a quarterback like that caliber, the drop-off is pretty immense and pretty enormous. And you saw that with the Steelers this year. The offense was just struggled mightily all year, but yet they were still able to find a way to stay in the hunt up until the very last game. So I'm just going to look back on it. It doesn't feel that way right now, like I said, but years from now, I'm going to look back on 2019 and go, wow, that was something that they did. That was pretty special.
Well, you know what? I do agree with you that, and something that is special that I will always say is the people in the live chat. And I'm looking at names like Mark from Down Under, Kathy, Felicia, Wes, a snowman's in here, Ron Chess, Ali, there are Jerry Cherry, Solarverse. I'm seeing all these names. And if I didn't mention you, it's just that I'm going really fast, and with my adult attention deficit disorder that Jeff Hartman just diagnosed me with on the phone yesterday. I may miss some, but I do want to bring one up because Tony and I want to bring another name up here because Tony and I used to do the Hangover and the post-game show for the last couple of years on Blog Talk Radio, and we'd have callers come in. And one of the first times I've seen this name on our live chat during this Hangover, I'm going to bring him up. Melvin D.
Melvin
says, hey guys, and he is on here too. So welcome to Hangover 3.0, let's just call it. Naps another guy in there. Deal with it. These guys, these ladies, they have been with us all year long, and we love it. And remember, just because the calendar says February or March, hey, we're going to be here. We want you to be here with us too. So that's really special. I'm going to look back on the season, Tony, pretty much the same way. And the reason I'm going to is 1-4, that was disastrous. And when that trade was made for Minkah Fitzpatrick, that showed me that this organization was not ready to let it go. But for me, I really needed this organization to adapt to especially Randy Fichtner, who I'm very hard on. Randy, no soda for you. But I'm pretty hard on Randy Fichtner because I just expect a little bit more and a little more adaptability. And I just don't, I think that was one of the major problems in 2019. I also hope this is something that they look at for 2020. You need an experienced backup quarterback, because if this team had a guy like Matt Moore, I keep on want to call him Mike, but Matt Moore, like the Chiefs did. The Chiefs didn't lose too much when Pat Mahomes went down. They lost a game or two, but they won some games too. You need to find a guy like that. If this team had a guy like Case Keenum, they're in the playoffs right now. We saw what they did with a team like the Minnesota Vikings just a couple years ago. So that's one of the things I want to see them do. Go ahead, Tony.
Even dare I say an Andy Dalton, if he would have been, a guy at that caliber, I think he could have got them 2 or 3 more wins.
Yeah, it's just a matter of they could not. Once you saw tape on Mason Rudolph and Devlin Duck Hodges, they were figured out, and their deficiencies were too much for them to overcome, is basically what I'm going to say.
Right.
Melvin says even Landry Jones, who they couldn't bring back, they tried to. The Vince McMahon and the WWE said no. Let's not say the WWE, the XFL said no. And I kind of get that too, because if for the XFL to give these players back, then they're never going to come back. And that's one of the things that could go ahead and sink their league. I will go ahead and try to look up. I've had some good questions so far. With me, if I try to answer those questions now, I'm going to get off track like I always do. So I'm going to ask you guys to save some questions for a little bit. And if I don't ask them, maybe in about 10, 15 minutes, ask them again. If I don't answer them, go ahead and ask them again. Just because I do believe in a lot of your questions and I want to go ahead and answer them. But I know me, and Tony always reels me in, but I get off track like crazy. My wife tells me that I cannot multitask. I'm finally figuring out that she is absolutely correct. I do not multitask for anything. So, but Ron Chess does say bad, right on. A need for a veteran backup. Average quarterback would have put this team in the playoffs with this defense. So somebody also mentioned in the live chat before too, I noticed that they will remember 2019 for the year that Pittsburgh found their defense.
Right.
Tony, do you think that this defense can carry over to 2020? And that includes the possibility of a plus or a minus from Bud Dupree.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think there's enough talent there overall. Obviously, you would miss a player like a Dupree if he doesn't come back, which is pretty likely given his what his cost is going to be. But it's just a matter of plugging that hole. I know it's easier said than done, but I mean, you see what you have in T.J. Watt and Minka, and you're going to have Tua coming back. So Hargrave might be gone, but you're going to have Tua to plug in right there, and he's a dominant force when he's healthy. And you're going to have Devin Bush in his second year. You're going to have Vince Williams coming back, I think. So you're still going to have enough parts there for this defense to be dominant. I don't see it at this point. I don't see one player making that much of a difference for there to be a dramatic drop off if for example, if Bud leaves via free agency.
Now, one thing I'm going to ask Steeler family right now, BTSC family. Let's go after what Tony just said. Not go after it, but let's go ahead and analyze that. So there's 2 major free agents that you might look at for next year, departing the Steelers or having to bring them back. Now, the guys that I'm talking about are Javon Hargrave, so Jay Wobble, big number 79 that Tony mentioned, or Alvin Bud Dupree. If you have to choose between one of those guys, who are you going to choose to bring back? You can only choose one. If you can only choose on one, who are you bringing back? Or I'll give you a third option. You can say none. So,
Right.
As far as J Roush 85 just said, good luck keeping Bud. Here's the thing with Bud: you can always go ahead and franchise tag him, and that's not the worst thing in the world to go ahead and franchise tag a guy. Where a lot of people are probably reticent to go ahead and franchise tag a guy after the Le'Veon Bell debacle. Mr. Butt
Right.
Naked and Robbed, one of the greatest nicknames of all time. I give Lance Williams one of the greatest nicknames ever. I'm still not a big fan of Mr. Third and Fifth, that nickname, but I love Mr. Butt Naked and Robbed. So we go back to the fact that they franchise tagged Le'Veon Bell twice and it didn't work out. I don't see that happening with a guy like Bud Dupree, for so many different reasons. He's going to get his money, and he might be actually pretty expensive, but you got to make a move. You got to keep something together, and I think he's a big part of it. So where are you going? You got to pick one of them, Tony. Bud or Jay Wobble?
I would, because you have Tuitt back there, and I think you have a decent veteran in Alu. I don't know what his contract situation is, but I assume he's coming back. I would keep Bud for at least one more year. I would, like you said, I would franchise tag him. You have TJ Watt coming up. He's going to be a free agent, I guess, after next year. So you're going to want to extend him to you're going to want to sign him to an extension. And I think Bud, you can franchise tag him for 1 year. And you could say, okay, we're going to keep him around for another year. If Ben comes back, that gives us a window to try to win a championship with the probably the best pass rush duo in the NFL for another year. So I would try that. It's easier said than done, because when you franchise tag somebody, if you don't sign them to a deal, then it's a hard number for the cap. It's $16 million straight up. You can't prorate it. So that's the only problem with that. But if I had to choose between one, I would go with Bud for 1 more year.
Yeah, I'm going with Bud there too. I love Javon Hargrave and everything he's done, but I think Bud is more glaring. But 16 million, that's a heck of a lot. But you've got to pay. You've got to make those investments into guys like that. Someone else is going to go ahead and do that. So hopefully they can go do that. A lot of people were saying, get rid of Chicolo, $5 million. You're going to have to start looking at guys like that.
Right.
Think about this. Now that you still have Ola Adeniyi, you still have Tuzar Skipper. Now with a guy like Chicolo, that's probably a cut that would make a whole lot more sense now that you have something a little more established in those two guys. Another guy, and Wes is bringing up these guys. Ramon Foster has probably played his last game in Pittsburgh, I would think. He's not ready to retire, but it's probably time. A lot of people are mentioning Vance McDonald. I don't think Vance McDonald, and this is not going to be popular for me to say this, I don't think Vance McDonald had a horrible season. So the reason I don't think he had a horrible season, hear me out on this before you blow me up. All right. If there was a more competent quarterback in there, if Ben Roethlisberger had played 15 games this season, or even 12 games this season, that's a better Vance McDonald. I know he gets hurt easy, but that's a better Vance McDonald. So if you're talking 2020 money, that might be a guy that has to go.
Right.
A lot of people. Go ahead, Tony. Sorry.
Well, no, I agree wholeheartedly about Ramon Foster. I love him. He's one of my favorite Steelers ever. But I think last year should have been the year that they went with a BJ Finney and tried to save some money. And put him at left guard. So maybe that's your answer going forward. I think BJ Finney's ready to start. So I think he's your answer, and you could probably get him at a cheaper price than you would have Ramon Foster.
That's definitely, and I believe you're going to have to pay a guy like Finney too, but he's probably a guy that you expect to stick around. I don't think Mark Barron. A lot of people want Barron gone, but I'm thinking on him. that money is, somebody did mention it. I'm not, this isn't coming from my head, but I knew this. His money is guaranteed. So with the contract they signed him, I believe it was a 2-year deal. You might as well, you're going to keep him in. He had some good weeks. He had some weeks that you didn't love him, but he did not kill your season.
Right.
So we're going back to it. We're talking about the defense, but the defense isn't what's going to kill you in 2020. In fact, it's still the strength. It's still going to be the strength of the team. Let's go back to the offense. We already know what the plan is for quarterback. The plan is hopefully Ben Roethlisberger can come back. Okay, that's it. Hopefully that's your plan. Right. You've got to have a plan B, C, and D though. You have to. You didn't have that plan this year, and I know, Tony, you said that it's hard to do, but I think we've decided upon the fact that you bring a veteran guy in. You bring a veteran guy in to battle it out with Mason Rudolph. Look, they're not throwing Mason Rudolph away, especially the way he came back in for a little bit against the Jets. They aren't going to throw him out the window. It's not going to happen. No. Duck Hodges, first of all, Duck Hodges, you know what? You did more in this season. You became a Pittsburgh Steeler legend. And the reason I say legend is whether it was good or bad, you will always be remembered for what you did in Pittsburgh in 2019. Now, I'm the idiot that bought the jersey and also bought one for my nephew, which he's going to go back to school and get. I mean, that poor kid is going to hear it because he's going to be walking around with a Duck Hodges jersey on. Like, what is that?
You change it to Schweesum. Put Schweesum on the back.
Oh, no, you put Bubby on first. Bubby's my man.
Oh, there you go.
But you know what? I love what Duck Hodges did for this team. I thank him. He kept this season interesting. He gave us hope. He was an awesome story. I expect him to be invited back, but really, you need to go ahead and bring in a veteran quarterback somewhere.
Right.
I'm going to jump in. A lot of people keep on asking about this. Draws Hill is asking, Bad, should we trade up for Trevor Lawrence in 2021? That's too far for me to look out into because we don't know what the landscape is going to be. I would love to see a guy like Trevor Lawrence on this team. I would love to see it. It's just way too early for us to go ahead and look at that, Draws. But Trevor Lawrence on this team, he'd be fun. Nap saying that poor kid who's washing the car with a Duck jersey. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I could see a number 16 Trevor Lawrence in this team's future, but it's really it's what you would be able to do to go ahead and trade up for him. And that is way too far off in the distance. A lot of people were asking about Jalen Hurts as well. Jalen Hurts, if he's around in the second round, that's basically your number one pick. Is that a guy that you feel comfortable in going ahead and making him your quarterback for the future? The thing is, everybody could say no, they don't like the idea of that. But there was questions about Lamar Jackson as well. I'm not saying they're the same guy, but as Wes says, Jalen throws a lot of picks. But a lot of people don't like the idea of bringing in a guy like Mahomes 2 or 3 years ago, which they did. They talked about it, but they were going to be angry if the Steelers wasted a pick on Mr. Mahomes. And you saw what happened with that. They did not get a chance to trade up for him. He didn't fall to them. They got a franchise player in that draft named TJ Watt, who's going to go down in history if he stays healthy as one of the greatest draft picks, especially that late of all time for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That draft pick, what was that number 20? Was that 28 in the draft?
I think it might have been 30th because they were in the championship game that year, so it might have been 30th.
Yeah, I think you're right. It was really high.
Yeah.
So that was a great draft pick. Look, we don't know. We just don't know what they know when they're drafting. I remember being on the air live with you when they drafted Terrell Edmonds, and I think we did know then.
Yeah.
Ron Chess, this is a question that he mentioned earlier. He wants a big physical guard, Shane Lemieux from Oregon. And we're going to talk about the offensive line in just a little bit. Because that's definitely going to be a concern. But let's finish up the quarterback talk. When we're looking at quarterback, the plan is to have Ben back. But if Ben is not back, can you get through the 2020 season with Mason Rudolph as your number one guy, Tony?
At this point, I would say no. But that's the thing where the Steelers are lucky is that they have 8 or 9 games of tape on this guy, and he has 8 or 9 games of experience. So what did he learn from his time? He apparently has the tools. He has the skill set. He has the measurables. Is he going to grow from this? But as of right now, I would say no. Based on 2019, I would say no, and that's why I would be more inclined than I was last year to go out and sign a veteran guy. You're probably not going to get somebody like I've heard Derek Carr, but you're not. Those guys are going to want to start. But an Andy Dalton or a Joe Flacco or somebody that's a decent insurance policy, like back in the day with a Charlie Batch or a Byron Leftwich. That's who I would go after this season, because I think you have to have that insurance policy. I think you owe that to your team to not put it in the same position you put it in 2019. Not that hindsight's always 2020, but I think they learned a lesson from this year. You have to have a veteran backup if you have Super Bowl aspirations.
Terrence Smith says it right here, and everything that he says right here, I'm going to just say absolutely correct. Everyone is overreacting to the quarterback situation. Just get a veteran backup, Rudolph the number 3, draft a quarterback at round 2 or 3 if they see something like and put them on the practice squad. We need a quarterback coach. There's nothing that I can say about against that. You definitely need a quarterback coach.
Right.
You have a quarterback coach. His name's Randy Fichtner. I'd rather him be a quarterback coach than an offensive coordinator. The only thing that I'm going to say about this whole thing, that drafting a quarterback in round 2, that's your number 1 pick.
Right.
And there might be more glaring needs at round 2 than a quarterback. I might be wrong about that, though, as well. So what are you doing? I think Ron keeps on saying Shane Lemieux on the offensive line. Offensive line is long in the tooth.
Yes. I think I'm looking at it again.
And I think that's a place where you have to address. There were definite deficiencies. And I think running back, you have a lot of nice compliments and nice pieces at running back. You don't have a guy.
Right.
You just don't have a guy. But what we're going to know before we go ahead and see the draft and talk about that draft, we are going to see free agency. And they need to make some moves in free agency. So that's it. When they start with free agency, you got to start thinking about bringing a guy that could play on the offensive line and possibly start. A guy that can play running back, because we talk about all the time about how I hate the Ravens and I hate that organization.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it is jealousy, and I'm not afraid to say that, because they make the smart moves. Was anybody looking at Mark Ingram last year and Earl Thomas as busts as soon as they picked those guys up? Me, I was saying, oh no.
It's a perfect situation, especially Earl Thomas. He seemed like the perfect fit. For the Ravens.
I was just thinking, oh no.
Mm-hmm.
And they seem to always pick up guys like that do well. More often than not, their free agent pickups are smart. They had more cap room last year than they usually do, but I've seen them do it with hardly any cap room and figure it out. They also had a lot of losses last year at free agency. That defense, there was a lot of turnover, and they got it done. Rochella Brooks. I'm going to bring up Rochella here. TE is a must. Too many over teams using their tight ends way more effectively than us.
It goes back to the quarterback.
I really think that. The problem with that, I still think Vance McDonald and like I said, everybody's gonna think I'm crazy for this. I think Vance McDonald is probably, and even Nick Vanette, with an experienced quarterback that knows how to use a tight end, is probably paying more dividends than they did this year. That definitely could be wrong. Wes is bringing up, and Wes is a guy, I would tell you that he's a football mind because he knows who's out there. He's
Right.
He's very personnel wise, he's really good. He's bringing up Hunter Henry or Austin Hooper at tight end if they hit free agency. We've seen good things out of them. Hunter Henry, haven't seen too much because he's been hurt, but a guy like Austin Hooper, he's not going to knock anybody's socks off, but with the Steelers, he could.
Right.
Knapp says it bad. Vance is great if he can stay healthy. He had a healthier year this year. Ryan Kellerman, he's a guy here. I didn't mention Ryan earlier. A very good fan of the show and a great contributor as well. Vanette looked good when they actually used him. So I don't know if tight end, look, I'm putting tight end down the line. I know we need one. I know it's necessary.
But his name might be Vance McDonald with Ben Roethlisberger as his quarterback.
You just can't get rid of everybody and fill those holes. That's
Right.
the problem. I mean, if it was possible, that would be great, but you just can't. So you're looking at the possibility of your number 2 pick, which is your number 1 pick, maybe being an offensive lineman, or if you go for a tight end, then what are you doing at running back? So that's the guy, and the guy that we haven't mentioned is James Conner.
Right.
I think it's proven that he can't stay healthy.
Right.
And we talked about it, last week on the show, which drives me crazy that with what his body has been through, that it's harder. I think we have to accept that it's harder for him to stay healthy because of that. But with this being a business, they have to look at that as well.
Right.
So, I think you need a new running back. You need a new RB1. So that's probably one of your big needs now too. Let me ask you a crazy question. And I don't even have an answer for this. I don't even know what I'm thinking about this. Do you open the door if the price is right for Le'Veon Bell if you could get him back?
It would have to be the right price, like you said. He would have to take a substantial pay cut, which I don't think he's willing to do. But I think you could find a quality veteran running back at a cheaper price. The question is, if you bring him in, is he going to be the guy, like he was before? That's the thing, because it looked like he lost a lot between 2017 and 2019. That's the only issue I have with him, because if you bring him in, he's probably going to want to be the number 1 guy again, and that'd be great if it was 2016 or 2017. But is he at that level anymore? I don't know. I would say at this point, no, just because of the price tag.
Dusk Thunder 9 says Benny Snell's pretty good. Where are you on Benny Snell football?
I like him. I really like. I think he's more one-dimensional than they're used to at their running back position in recent years. But as far as a number 2 running back, he sold me on his talent as the season went along. I wasn't sold on him in training camp and in preseason, but as the season went along, I started to like him. I really liked how he ran yesterday. He ran hard. It was tough conditions, and it seemed like it was his element. So I really liked that. I don't think he's dynamic enough to be their number 1 back, though. 16 games. I think they're gonna have to go out and get, like we just talked about, somebody more dynamic. But as far as the number 2, I think he could fill a really good role on this team.
Okay, before I go to my next thought, let me ask you about wide receivers, I don't think you do anything. I think right now you don't do anything. You hope for health from Juju. By the way, I guess he's Boo-Boo Schuster as far as Antonio Brown goes. Another classless attack on Juju for being under 500 yards this year. Look, I don't think that we're going away from a guy like that. I think Deontay Johnson is a future superstar on that team. I think James Washington is very good. You might draft a young guy. You still have Deion Kane in there. If you have luck and you have a quarterback, that's a much better stable of receivers as well. You could also bring in a free agent that's not Dante Moncrief.
Yeah, I was going to say I would be all for bringing another Dante Moncrief type if he lived up to his potential. But obviously, a lot of people are going to be soured on that idea based on what happened with him last year. But if you can get a guy like that at a cheap price, I think he could serve a valuable role as a veteran receiver.
Yenzer Life 77 says, well, Mr. Third and Fifth had 56 receiving yards and 5 rushing yards in 2019. AB is the bum. Terrence Smith agrees. Just continue to develop our receivers. We don't need no more rookies or divas. But let's get back to this. So you need a backup. You need a veteran backup quarterback. You don't have to break the bank there. You just need a veteran to bring a capable guy in. Like a Fitzpatrick, like somebody like that, like a Matt Moore, like a Case Keenum, a guy that could go ahead, and Case Keenum's actually not an old dude. That's the kind of guys you bring in. Running back, you need an RB1.
Right.
The offensive line, you've got problems. It looks like Foster's gone. We don't know what's going on at all with AV. Big Al. DeCastro's solid. DeCastro's more than solid. DeCastro's an all-pro.
He's your best player right now. I mean, on the line.
Filer. Filer. You can deal with what you have with Filer. You have Zach Banner, who could be a starter on this team. I really think he can. The big question is one of my favorite all-time Steelers, Marquise Pouncey. Is he done, Tony?
I don't think he's done. I think, like a lot of people on that team, he's going to benefit from a healthy Ben if he can come back healthy next year. I just think he like a lot of people on the team, he just struggled without his franchise quarterback behind him. I mean, like why all of a sudden would he suddenly have trouble with the shotgun snap? It just didn't make any sense. It seemed like mentally maybe he was trying too hard. I don't know. I don't think he's done. I think in with the contract he just signed, I don't think they could let him go anyway. But I think he could be solid again as long as you're playing against a solid guard to his left and obviously DeCastro to his right. But it certainly wasn't one of his best years, that's for sure.
Goodfella 1422 really missed Mike Munchak this year. I did too, Goodfella. The coordinator of the running game. I think the running backs missed him as well. Another thing that we really did miss was not having a wide receiver coach this year. And there wasn't one to be found, and we know why. God bless Daryl Drake, who passed away in training camp. That was a big loss for this team, and they did it. They did not bring somebody else in out of respect, but you really need to have a wide receiver coach, especially with these young guys as well. You will be seeing a wide receiver coach. A lot of people want to see the guy that's the assistant wide receiver coach of the New York Jets. They'd love to go ahead and see Hines Ward come in. Don't know if that would ever happen, but Draws thinks we should. I think we should. Love to see Hines Ward back here. So there are so many things to focus on. Hey, we've got about 36 shows before training camp. for us to go ahead and figure this out. And we're going to be doing this. We're going to be doing a lot. Your MVP, Tony, of this season, your valedictorian. Did the Steelers get it right? Because I'm saying yes, they did.
Oh, TJ Watt is, I mean, I was saying to my mom yesterday, she was like, "Oh, TJ Watt made some mistakes." I'm like, TJ Watt is their best player by far. He's their MVP. Where would they be without him this year? He's just a phenomenal player. And like other people have pointed out, he did that knowing he did everything he did without teams really having to be that aggressive on offense because they knew the Steelers were struggling on offense. They didn't have to open it up. Could you imagine if opposing offenses had to open up more and pass more, how many, the kind of numbers he really would have put up? So I just think if he's not in the discussion for Defensive Player of the Year when all is said and done, then something's wrong with the voting process.
I agree with that. I'm hearing a lot about, I know they brought Ray Sherman in camp. I guess they kept him the whole year. I wasn't aware that he was the guy for the whole season. Right. So that's something that I made a mistake on. Music playlist guy. I'm a music playlist guy myself. I have an extensive 80s playlist. What do you guys think of trading away Josh Dobbs and how that affected the season? You got Nick Vannett out of that Josh Dobbs trade. As far as everything goes, Josh Dobbs was not even close to the answer. I thought Mason Rudolph was a much better quarterback. I have no problem with that trade. In fact, yeah. I really thought that he shouldn't have made the original 53-man roster. They would have never made that move if Ben doesn't get hurt. But I'm not. I don't have a problem with that trade at all. Not at all. Snowman. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's 2020. It's hindsight. I mean, Josh Dobbs, he looked great in the preseason, but so did Mason Rudolph. You never really know with these young quarterbacks until you throw them in the fire of a regular season game. And we saw how Josh Dobbs struggled against the Raiders last year, just like Mason Rudolph struggled, just like Devlin Hodges struggled at times, in 2019. You just don't know. So to say it would have made their season better, probably not. He probably wouldn't have made much of a difference because he's a young quarterback like the other two, and it probably wouldn't have mattered all that much.
I want to bring this one back. We were talking about James Conner. Tom Vallejo, I have the same cancer Conner has, and a body can't heal right anymore, and I'm pretty sure Conner gets disappointed when he gets hurt after going through chemo and radiation. Oncologist says our bodies age. That's the point I was trying to make, Tom. Thank you for bringing that up. Bless you. I hope that everything goes well. Continues to go well with your health. I hope it is. I'm a cancer survivor myself. I'm going on 17 years. I did not have quite that. You don't have to, thank you, but you don't have to clap for me because I didn't have quite that cancer. I did have a malignant tumor, had a couple surgeries back in 2003. And you know what? You know what helped get me through that? The 2003 Steelers season, and it was a 6-10 season. It was an awful season, but I looked forward to watching them every week, and that's the season that got you Ben Roethlisberger and got you a couple Super Bowls.
Right.
So what I'm asking you, Tom, I'm asking anybody, continue hanging out with us here, BTSC family, because that's what we do. We're in this together, and the Steelers have been eliminated from the playoffs, and we talked about the disappointment for about 15 minutes, and now all we're talking about is 2020. So that's a good feeling. That's right. What drives us. We're here. We're linked. The only reason Frank and Rochella and Liberal Rod and Vic FM and Melvin D, just the names I'm looking at right now on my screen, only reason we're linked together, Ron, Dusk Thunder, the only reason we're linked together, the only reason I'm linked with Tony is because of our mutual love for the Steelers. So
absolutely,
that's why we're here. So stick with us and we do this stuff together. Bryan Legaretta, I hope I didn't. I mangle names. I never mangled names before, but now I do. But I think I got this one, Tony. Legarreta?
It looks legit to me.
Okay. What do you think we target for a second round pick? We kind of talked about this a little earlier. I think right now we're going offensive line. Unless there's a running back, that you think could be an immediate starter, Tony.
I agree. I agree. I think you have to improve your running back spot, and you have to improve the offensive line. So it's one of those two at this point. We'll see how free agency shakes out. But right now, I think those are your top two targets.
We're going to have plenty of time to talk about this through the whole year. Ryan Kellerman says, nah, we're going J.K. Dobbins. He already has the pick. So, screenshot here. Ryan, I tell you what. If we go, you're going to have to remind me of this, Ryan. I'll get you some kind of BTSC t-shirt if it's J.K. Dobbins with the first pick. If you can foresee this on December 30th, 2019, bring it up. Actually, I want to bring this one up. Ron Chess says, Tony's Italian. He should know that name bad. Good job. I'm 50% Italian. It's just my dad, Davis. My dad would always joke because he was around the Italians so much that he should have been
here.
Davis Cheney or something like that, or Defeo or something. But my mom's side is 100% Italian, and I actually take after them a little bit more. My dad's side is a little bit of everything. Four things, but not going to get into that. But I kind of know my Italian names. I've grown up with a lot of them. But just nobody knows because Davis masks my heritage. Gosh, that's that's funny. Panzer Shrek DS. Just hope we can retain Bud. I think Bud's coming back. Bud's coming back at a huge price, and we'll probably complain about it. But I think Bud needs to come back. You know what? Let me ask you a question, Tony. Does Watt need Bud back?
I don't think it could hurt. I mean, that would take so much pressure off of him. I mean, you can't double team TJ Watt if you have a 10 sack guy on the other side. I mean, if you're pairing him with Tuzar Skipper, who's unknown, or Ola next year, I mean, obviously they're going to shift all their attention to TJ Watt. So I mean, he doesn't need him to be great. But he definitely probably needs somebody, a pass rusher like that, to be Defensive Player of the Year quality, to really let his star shine.
And, I think another number two possibility, you're probably looking at an edge rusher as well. Snowman throws in $2 in the tip jar. Happy New Year, Bad and Tony. Thank you so much, Snowman. Another great fan of the show. Man, I love looking at these names. That Dante Harris is another one. Keep those two together. Dante, I saw Reginald Rivers earlier in there. I didn't mention him. Jesse George, a lot of names that Chris Tasman, Hodge, a lot of these names that I'm very familiar with, and a lot of these names that I'm really learning that I'm glad to keep on seeing. We've got 123 in the live chat.
That's awesome.
Hey. Next week, we've got no horse in the race, but I think we'll be over 100 next week because this is our Steelers support group and our chat, and this is our time together. So stick with us, even when it is the off season. Wes, I'm sure I'm not alone. I'm just reading this for the first time too. I'm sure I'm not alone. I hated that we gave Bud 9.25, wanted him gone. Completely wrong about him. A lot of people were. I was fine with it just for the fact that I just didn't think there was another alternative. But if I'm completely honest, I didn't foresee him having this great a season. I thought it was going to be decent, but not what he did this year. Bud said today in response to being asked if he felt that he would be back, TJ has a lot going on right now and is going to get a monster contract. So Yenzer Life brings that up. help me out with that, Tony. I'm not sure if I'm comprehending that. Is he saying that TJ is going to get the money, so I'm probably not going to get re-signed?
It sounds like that's what he's trying to say. But as somebody pointed out earlier, and I forget who, but thank you for saying that. TJ Watt has 2 more years. So even if you keep Bud around for 1 more year, you can still get a deal done with TJ Watt the year after next. So, TJ Watt's going to get the huge contract. I don't see Bud Dupree getting that kind of contract here. He could probably get it on the open market if they let him go to the open market, but they might wait till 2021 to let him go to the open market and keep Bud around next year at $16 million. And based on his first 4 or 5 years, he might be okay with that. I mean, let's face it, he still has he's still a young guy, so he might feel like, all right, I'll put in my time for 1 more year, and then I'll hit the open market in 2021.
There's no denying Kathy Fored will be spending the offseason with BTSC. Another great fan of the show, Kansas Kathy, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, from the Midwest, a big fan of the show, gives us $2 in the tip jar. Thank you so much, Kathy. I think Kathy has set the record for most money in the tip jar without asking a single question, just telling us that she enjoys hanging out with us. So I appreciate it.
Kathy.
This is a newer name. Probably on other shows, but Rochella Brooks, love you guys. You're all doing a great job at keeping with the Steelers. Look forward to seeing you guys more in the off season. Yes, you will. So thank you so much, Rochella. There's so much to get excited about. Bryan says we do an awesome job as well. Thank you. Gosh, I got to say this because I have been, Jeff Hartman and my wife have teamed up to go ahead and ban me from reading comments on YouTube after reading all the Ravens comments yesterday. Because I thought on December 1st being public enemy number 1 of the Cleveland Browns fans was bad. Well, I live in Maryland, and Maryland fans want to hurt me right now. They think I'm the biggest jerk in the world. And I mean, so Ravens fans don't like me anymore. And so I guess I have to stay away from YouTube a whole lot more. But I thank you guys so much for having my back here and making me feel good, and Tony as well.
Don't feel so bad, because I let some my old friends from Facebook get the best of me last night after the game, and I was pretty upset on Twitter. So I'm not sure if they read it, but I was pretty upset at my old friends that threatened me in the spring. So, it's the internet. The internet's going to do that to you from time to time. It's going to make you want to
look. Our Facebook fans, and most of them really. I don't think they read the articles. They read the headlines, and and all they do is read the headline.
Absolutely.
And if you know anything about BTSC, Jeff Hartman BTSC is going to make sure that the headline makes you want to click. And these guys, even Steeler fans, they're not clicking. All right. They're not clicking. They looked at our point counterpoint last week, just a couple of days ago, our article that Tony and I do. It's our argument article. And it's a hard article to do now because Tony and I really don't disagree on much, but we always try to take one point and the other point, and we are both idiots. When in that article, Tony was the only idiot, but they're like, you guys are both morons.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I did get some idiot emails. So,
oh, you did?
Oh, I got it was pretty benign. Your article was ridiculous, and that was it, which is pretty cool. That's pretty good for me. So I appreciated the sensitivity there. But yeah, I got some pushback for that.
Chris Boyd, bad. Are you in a shower stall? Okay. You probably noticed that this is the first time I've been in this room. This is actually my 10-year-old daughter's room. So that's the pink in the background. This is, I'm having lighting problems, and I had a flood in my basement where my Steeler room, which I call Steeler Central. I had it back in 2018, and it's still not back up yet. And I have an office, and the lighting's horrendous. An office that I just got back. And the problem with that, I'm just not happy with the lighting. I've been doing it in my living room a little bit next to the Christmas tree, and everybody is making fun of my curtains from the 70s. One Ravens fan asked if I lived in my mom's basement with my fat face. Look, I'm, and they made fun of me for, not made fun of me, they blasted me for making fun of, and this was a Ravens fan, making fun of Ben Roethlisberger. I called him the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man because he's gotten bigger. And look, I have no room to talk, but they're like, wow, the nerve of a guy 120 pounds bigger than Ben, calling him the Pillsbury Doughboy, or because they accused me of calling him that. And but I'm large and in charge in the wrong ways, but I don't weigh more than Ben. I will tell you that right now.
I live in my mom's basement too, Brian. At least somebody told me that 2 weeks ago. So we both need to get out and stop being so sheltered.
You know what's funny? When we were solely writing for BTSC, everybody thought I was like a 18-year-old kid writing until they figured out who I was. Like, guys, I'm in my 40s. I've got a family. I'm not the guy. People thought I was really. I think now they think I'm Will Ferrell in Wedding Crashers. Mom, where's the meatloaf?
Meatloaf. I want it now.
Or the great the great ESPN commercials where they, oh my gosh, his name's why is his name escaping me? He was a Pittsburgh writer, and the little guy with glasses on ESPN, one of the great correspondents. John Clayton. How can I forget John Clayton?
The professor.
Yeah, because he's the reason that the Steelers did not draft Dan Marino, because he suggested that they do. Dan goes to his brother and Chuck, and they left him out of the room when they found out that it was Clayton. And Dan says that in his book.
You know why? Because John Clayton ratted the Steelers out in the late 70s for having a padded practice, and Chuck Noll never got over that. I guess they lost a draft pick or something.
Cost them a draft pick, yeah. So there you go on that. So much to talk about. It's a lot of fun, but I did want to go ahead and answer that question. Yeah, I hope to have a backdrop that is really normal and constant. But right now, I tried at the last minute. I tried a new one because I broke my lamp right before the not in anger, but I broke my lamp trying to get ready for the post game show yesterday, and so that room is really out. This is the best lighting I've had in a long time, so I'm liking this. I don't think I could stay here much longer though. But the thing about the living room is with those curtains, which my wife bought those in 2015, but I guess they're just way too retro and everyone thinks they're from the 60s and the Brady Bunch. And nothing upsets my wife that much. Well, I can upset her because I'm that guy. I'm a pain to live with. I will tell you that. But one thing, when I told her that people were ripping on her, and Lance is ripping. God love Lance, one of my favorites. Lance was calling them 2 a.m. curtains. Hashtag 2 a.m. curtains. But if one thing's going to upset my wife, it's ripping on the curtains, I guess. So we can't do that. But yes, I am in my daughter's room, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks, Tony, on the show, we will have a guest correspondent with my daughter. She wants to do a segment called Best and Worst Steeler Haircuts. So that's a possibility that we might have coming up. We'll have to work on that a little bit. So, and she just walked in the room, and she's smiling because let's see if she doesn't have camera fright, but maybe in the next couple of weeks. That's definitely an off-season thing, probably after the Super Bowl. Speaking of the Super Bowl, my last thing I want to ask before we wrap things up, it's the playoffs, right?
Absolutely.
So with the playoffs coming up, let's just talk AFC right now. Who you hanging your hat on, Tony? Who is Tony rooting for in the playoffs?
much as it pains me to say, I have to go with Baltimore. I think they.
No,
I
no,
know,
no,
I know, I know.
no.
Believe me, I don't like to say it. I don't like to tell the truth, but I have to tell the truth in this case. I mean, they had a great.
Wow, something just happened to Tony's feed. He's gone. I don't know where he is. Oh no, there he is. I cut you off.
Wow, that was. I didn't realize how deep that went with the Ravens. But anyway, no, they had such a tough schedule. I mean, we talked about their schedule. Oh, they're gonna.
You're rooting for him, though. You're rooting.
I'm not rooting for him. Oh,
no, okay. Okay.
I'm just calling it like it is. I'm not rooting for him.
Oh, I
don't want them to win. I want John Harbaugh to go down in flames. And so does my mother. She hates him.
So well, first of all, tell your mom that it's not John Harbaugh, it's Wang Harbaugh.
Harbaugh.
If you might get your mom to and but no, who you're rooting for though?
Who am I rooting for?
Agree,
in the AFC?
Real quick, I agree with you. I think they're tough.
I like the Chiefs a lot. I really do like the Chiefs. I like the way they came on at the end. I like the way you talked about Matt Moore. I like the way they survived Patrick Mahomes' injury. I want to see Andy Reid win one to get the monkey off his back, so to speak. So I'm going to root for the Chiefs. I really like the fact that they took over they overtook the Patriots for the number 2 seed. And I think they're in a good spot. They beat did they beat the Ravens this year? I think they did.
Yes, they did.
So they beat the Ravens. They beat the Patriots. So, there's a legit Super Bowl contender. They came close last year. I think they can get over the hump this year.
Okay. You guys aren't going to like this. I'm going ABB. Anybody but Baltimore. if that includes the New England Patriots, I'll wear a jersey if I had to. Just beat Baltimore because I abhor them. Now, if the Saints go out, and this will contradict something I said back in September with the Patriots. I said if it's the Patriots and Ravens with Antonio Brown on the Patriots in the AFC Championship game, I will be rooting for Baltimore. I said that. However, if it is the New Orleans Saints that somehow get Antonio Brown in there and get him cleared to play, and they're playing the Baltimore Ravens, I'm going New Orleans. I will sell my soul for the Ravens to lose, because you got to understand, I live in the state of Maryland, the old line state. I live here. I cannot root for them at all. Something bothered me years ago. What was it, 2013, the 2012 season, but the 2013 Super Bowl, when it was the 49ers and the Ravens, and people were Steeler fans were rooting for the Ravens just because they did not want the 49ers to get 6. And that drove me absolutely crazy, because the Steelers can get that record back.
Right, yeah. I'm with you. I was rooting for the 49ers. I did not want the Ravens to win that year.
So if it had to be, let me ask you this real quick. Everybody in the live chat, if it's the Ravens and Patriots, who you rooting for?
I think I'd have to go with the Patriots.
Yeah, you know what?
I hate the Ravens even more.
Because think about it this way. Right now, Dante's saying the Ravens. History right now is already supporting the fact that the Patriots are the team of the last 20 years, and they are. Jarrell Williams is going with the Ravens. Wow. I mean, our biggest rival isn't the Patriots, really.
No.
If AFC North, okay, Panzer Shrek too, going AFC North.
To me, anybody in the AFC North is like your neighbor that calls the cops on you because you're a little bit over in their driveway, and they call the cops to have your car towed. That's how I look at the Ravens and the Browns and the Bengals. I don't want them to ever have any success.
Roy Ybarra, I hope I'm not massacring your name there. Ybarra, he's saying Pats, so I'm liking that. Liberal Rod, blimp crashing into the stadium, and boy, I would love to sit down with a beverage with Liberal Rod, just seeing his icon up there, his animated icon. Frank. He cannot stand Belichick and Brady.
Well, me either, but
Me
I
either,
still hate the Ravens more.
but we've already been through that. We've already been through watching them win. I mean, if they won one more, it really means nothing more as far as I'm concerned. Jarrell Williams, he has respect for his division. That's all. Melvin D says, I respect the Ravens. He hates the Cowboys and Pats. Gosh, maybe it's just where I live, guys. Tony doesn't live here, but maybe it's just where I live, where I'm just more passionate about it. It's really hard. Now I have some fans that I love, but that are Ravens fans that I love and I do respect them, and
Right.
I could name them. But I'll tell you this. Let's just put it this way. I got in trouble with my wife yesterday because my daughter was at a friend's house just down the street, 5 minutes away, and wanted me to go pick her up after the game. Huge Ravens fans. And the 11-year-old will give me heck all the time about the Steelers, and he's 11, and I've got to understand that, but I didn't want to deal with it yesterday. I'm like, no way am I going. I might yell at an 11-year-old, and I might ruin our friendship because I might yell at him, and because I'm not ready to put up with his junk. So, I mean, maybe that was me. My wife thought I was being a child there, and I probably was. I was being a child, but I didn't want to hear it yesterday. I didn't want to hear him rubbing it in and telling me how crappy the Steelers were and how great. I saw him the other day. He was rubbing in his Lamar Jackson shirt. Same kid who everybody hated Lamar Jackson back in early September. I just can't put up with the purple thing because I'm telling you, last January, his record was he was like 8-1 as a starter. And that one loss was against the Chargers in the playoffs, and he was garbage, and they hated him.
Right.
They wanted to trade. They wanted to fire Harbaugh. They wanted to trade him. There was talk of trading him to Tampa that they were all over. They wanted that.
Really?
Like,
I didn't know that.
I'm like, it was just, just like the Tomlin trade to Washington was just speculation and talk. I mean, it's nothing. Somebody brought it up, and then it caught fire a little bit. But it's just one of those things that they are so fair weather here, and that's really what they are. And that's me telling the truth. I'm just looking at Ron's comment. Ron's backing me up there. But anyways, they just don't like this guy when they're not doing well. And so that, I mean, and not even doing well. Like I said, if they lose in the first round of the playoffs, which they're not going to, I think they're a dangerous team. But if they lose, they'll be off that bandwagon in a hurry. They forget you just like that. They are not like us right here. And look, we have, there's a lot of Steeler fans that will say ridiculous things that I'm not proud of as well. But like I said, we've got 114 in the live chat, and we're at the 109 mark. We're way over time. And what have we been doing? Talking pretty much about next year. And
right.
And Jesse George says Steelers will be great if Ben can play at least 75% of the time. That's what we're talking about. They wanted to blow up everything. They hated everybody, and I just keep on saying that. As far as the Ravens go, that's why I can't stand this team. When I say the Baltimore Ravens, I've been around it so much. I've been here so long, and I just can't do it. So we'll be talking about them. I have a bad feeling that in February I'll be like, please, no matter what team I will probably wear the jersey. I don't care what NFC team if I have to go buy a jersey, or if I have to buy any, even if it's the Eagles, which would kill me to have to put an Eagles jersey on.
Right.
But which isn't going to happen. But really,
It'll be interesting to see what happens, because I mean, if he gets to the mountaintop this year, meaning Lamar Jackson, I mean, he's got to go through people like Brady, Patrick Mahomes, obviously Aaron Rodgers in the NFC, and Drew Brees, those kind of quarterbacks. So he's considered a non-traditional quarterback right now. So if he wins it this year, that's gonna speak volumes to where the NFL is headed as far as the quarterback position. So it's going to be a really interesting thing to see what how he responds to this year,
I
to the
love
regular season.
Snowman. I love Snowman. That's great. Ear hold.
Hmm.
And then we had the comment that I brought up earlier about Ben leading the league next year. Frank P. Bad order your brewed trees jersey today. You know what? As much as I love and respect Drew Brees, that's probably the good one. But if I'm getting a Saints jersey, I'm probably my first inclination would be Michael Thomas. I love watching that guy play. I would wear number 13, but I really think the number 41 is really cool. And let me tell you a little bit about, now this is where I lose all you guys. My fantasy football team started off 2-5. I was horrible. This is a 14-team keeper league. And somehow I went all the way and won it. And I'm an 80s music guy. Alvin Kamara is a guy that I've been keeping for a couple years. I'm like, next year I get to keep him for an 8th round pick. That's how, that's what a steal he is for me right now. But that's how hard this league is. You've got guys like Tariq Cohen going in the 3rd round, because it's just, half these guys are gone before even draft. But the name of my team is Kamara Chameleon.
I like that. That's pretty good.
So a little ode to Boy George and the Culture Club.
Yeah.
And that song from 1984. Actually, a really interesting song if you do listen to the lyrics. But anyways, you get an Aaron Brooks jersey. Man, he was a fun player to watch back in the day, Wes says. Yeah, I do. I have no problem with Liberal Rod wants me to make it a Steelers Drew Brees jersey. Well, if I get a number 9, it's just going to end up being a Boswell, which I have no problem. I would sport a Boswell. Maybe I can take my Hodges jersey that I have and I can just flip the 6 upside down, make it a 9.
There you go.
And I'll just go ahead and do that. Or I just watch the game upside down with a number 9. But we have run way too long, Tony. What are your final thoughts on yesterday's game, the future, and how you feel about your Pittsburgh Steelers, my friend Tony Defeo?
Well, as far as yesterday's game, I think it was just a matter of them running out of steam. I think halfway through that game, it became pretty obvious that the Titans were going to win and clinch the playoff spot. So I think that played a lot into what happened in the second half. Although, the offense was going to be bad regardless. But I think as far as on the defensive side, as far as the season in general, it's like what Terry Bradshaw said to Dwight White back in the 70s when he hit him too hard in practice one day. You might lose with me, but you'll never win without me. And I think we saw this year what happens when you lose a franchise quarterback. It's not pretty, but they made it as pretty as they possibly could, winning 8 games and being alive. And like you said earlier, I echo your sentiments. I'm proud of what they did. I'm looking forward to 2020.
That's awesome, Tony. I really appreciate that. For me, I still think that was a winnable game yesterday. Really, just because, and a lot of it did have to be with the personnel that was in there. But if the Steelers had a quarterback that what is not your 4th option or your 5th option, like the Paxton Lynch waiting in the wings, they win that game. If Case Keenum's your quarterback, if Sam Bradford's your quarterback, you're winning that game. I said this guy yesterday, people were on top of me. If Mark Sanchez is your quarterback in that game, you win that game.
Yep.
And you're in the playoffs. That's just I really thought that team is there's a lot of problems, but a quarterback fixes a lot of the other problems. And there you go. We have so much to talk about, and we're going to continue to talk about. But this is our last time getting hungover together for the 2019 season. When we come back, it's going to be 2020. It's going to be a new decade. You're going into a new decade with us, so that's really exciting. Tony, before we take it home, I did not get a chance to have you do this last week. I was throwing it to you for it, and we had some confusion. So I'd like you to tribute the fans and take it on home.
I just want to say I appreciate all the support out there. You know, I'm still learning how to be a podcaster, try not to stutter too much and talk too fast. And the support of you guys means a lot. The support of everybody out there in Steeler Nation, behind the Steel Curtain Nation. And for my main man, Bryan Davis, you guys have just been hungover. Happy 2019.
And we'll see you in 2020. Good night.